welcome to a abbreviated and abrupt stop of that countdown to Tom Woodward and myself presenting on what is AI madness. And I was thinking this, Tom, before we started. Probably everything creative, and people will learn this as we go through our presentation, is probably attributable to you. So I just want to say thank you.
I think we are like the Wonder Twins, and when the power is activated, exactly, form of ice unicycle.
We could do a purple orangutan.
We could do whatever bizarre things come to mind, and I think that is one of the beautiful and fun things about working together for like 20-something years now.
It's been a long time, been a good time.
Maybe
we've been long-time bloggers too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's the glue that kept us together.
The edgy glue, if you will.
The edgy glue. All right. So I'm actually, thanks to Tom, we also have slides because that wasn't on the table as recently as yesterday. So the presentation, more or less, is about this thing called AI madness. And this is the first contribution Tom made. I came to him with the idea and he said, oh, kind of like AI madness. And so he gave it its name. But that led to us kind of working through some things, what we'll call brainstorming, Tom. Is that fair?
I think it's fair.
And so as we talked, one of the things that came up was Tom was experimenting with ChatGPT. So a little backstory, like I hadn't played with any AI as recently as about 6 to 7 months ago. And Tom is someone I trust, and he has been playing, kind of exploring this. And I said, look, I have this idea as a way to play with AI. What do you recommend? And that was kind of the brainstorming. Is that fair, Tom?
Yeah. And this was what? I don't know, 6, 8 a year ago, roughly. So
yeah, it was in the spring. That's really when I started. And so this actually was the first image, again, Tom, that came up with the iconic image for AI madness that probably only you and I have seen. That is essentially, can you tell me a little about this image? The creation of this image is kind of interesting.
Well, it does represent one of my one of my base techniques with AI is to do as little work as possible. So you can see the prompt that got us the image on the left. Create an image that mixes AI and the Madden football game, blah, 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 change the name. Pretty direct, right? And then I started to play around with Cotton Mather, based on Jim's long-standing icon from that comic book. And, nothing to it. And it was just happening. It wasn't quite as aligned as I want, which is what I was trying to do in the next one. And you can see again, like one of my other things is when AI disagrees with me, I have to tell it who's boss. So it was saying it couldn't do some of this because it was violating copyright. You can see I'm kind of correcting it and saying this is a parody image. Here's my citation for why we can do this. And then, it was like, oh, yeah, you're right. So I do like it when I can win arguments with AI and do what.
I thought that was amazing, frankly, when you're like, yeah, it wouldn't let me use Madden at first until I fought it. And I could. It's like, what? I wouldn't have thought to do that.
Well, I just treat it like a really dumb person for the most part. And just I decide I'm smarter and I can tell it things and argue with it. And apparently win sometimes. So that's kind of my mentality. Do as little work as possible, argue when it won't do what I want.
It's a good transition actually to our next kind of practical jumping in on some of this. So what I had was I tested this in the spring as we talked about, and I had a whole bunch of basically screenshots I've taken from a particular game. And so I had, say, for example, screenshot of player stats. Here's Curtis Martin from the 2000 Jets. And then I also had like screenshots of game stats. So this is a halftime shot from a Jets-Dolphins exhibition game. And so I go to Tom and I'm like, look, what do I do with this stuff to kind of, I don't have no other way to get data out, only screenshots. What do I do? And what was your advice, Tom?
Just put it up there and like ask it for the numbers, essentially.
And it was amazing. In fact, I just basically dragged the Curtis Martin images onto there, which had his halftime stats, and it literally read the screenshot, OCR'd it very cleanly, put it there as a table, and then offered me CSV, HTML, all these other formats that I could output it. And that was basically like, wow. Right?
AI literacy, folks.
Exactly. So then I went and I'm like, look, I'm going to stump AI. I know how to stump AI. So I took a game summary of that first half and I dragged it on. Again, I go to Tom. I'm like, no way is it going to read this. I don't know. It's far more complicated. I can't even make sense of it. What did you say, Tom?
Just try it.
Just try it. Bam. Look at that. I mean, this is literally drag and drop image without giving it no instruction. And it's just taking the image and formatting it. And in fact, that's most of what I do for AI Madness. And, you know, obviously we'll talk more about it, but that was fairly easy. AI didn't have too much trouble with taking the stats, raw stats and raw player stats and game stats and turning them into information that it could then use to write articles. It did run into problems when it came to team standings or divisional standings and scheduling. And why, I don't know. Maybe it's the complexity of tracking like conference records versus divisional records, but it really struggled with this. So this is something I had to kind of push on it. And it was interesting to me is after AI kind of figured this out, it basically sent me Python code. And it said, here's the code. You can run this code to do what you wanted to do with divisional or with standings or with schedule on a regular basis from your computer. And the screenshot, which is not very big, but it shows you actually the code it wrote and the code it was providing me. Now, I'm not very useful at running Python code on my computer. I'll be honest with you. But that's when I went to Tom and I'm like, Tom, because I was basically using Tom as an AI consultant. I went to Tom and I was like, look, you know, I got this stuff, but I have to do the same thing all the time. And it's giving me this code, but I'm not running Python on my computer. It's just kind of, I'm still non-programmistan, unlike you. And so what happened is he's like, check out these things called GPTs. And do you call them gems? Like, I don't know what the right word is for them.
Gems are the same thing, but for Google, Gemini.
Gotcha.
So, yeah,
okay.
you've got, I call them custom GPTs just because it helps people think like, hey, it's a custom ChatGPT.
Gotcha.
Gems are in Gemini and agents are in Copilot, and Claude has maybe projects. Like, so each vendor calls it a different thing to make my life harder.
Gotcha. But it's essentially the same idea, just a different branding of it. And the idea is once you put in a chat and you're getting kind of reliably the output you want, for me, it's always like, I want a graphic for the pregame, or I want a preview of the game summary or something like that. I can put in specific parameters as if I'm programming. And I use that in scare quotes for a reason, because it doesn't feel like programming. It's just description in natural language about what I want it to do, but putting it in there for every time I put in variables, it will use that structure or that formula to run. And I think that's pretty cool, actually, because this is what allowed me, for example, I no longer do anything for game summaries so preview game summaries. So whenever I want to preview a matchup coming in a week, I simply use, I don't know if I put it here or if it's showing, but I simply use this structure that now that GPT has. I'll go to that GPT and I'll say, Jets playing the Bills week 9, you know, give me a preview. And it will actually do all of that with some kind of screenshots I upload without me writing anything or doing anything at all. And that's pretty cool, actually. I have to say that's been pretty fun. And there it is. That's actually the image I was looking about. This kind of is all of the steps that it now knows in that GPT to take once I put up the two team names and their stat screenshots, it goes. And, you know, you can see them and I'll link them in the chat. It's pretty impressive, some of the preview games, if you like that kind of stuff. But then the cool part, again, Tom is responsible for all the cool parts, is, you know, building this within WordPress. Or how would we say this, Tom?
Yeah, I think WordPress acts as our, instead of having to go to GPT or ChatGPT, we are just setting our variables here in WordPress, sending it out, and then getting the results back and being able to write them. Now, what we're doing here is writing comments, but they could be posts. And we're kind of doing we're doing an API call that kind of does aspects of the custom GPT. In this case, we used advanced custom fields just because I'm lazy. That may be a theme here, to add like 3 little blocks of text for every author in WordPress. And that has these 3 things: a personality, a writing style, and kind of a sample post. So nothing fancy there. And maybe we could have gotten away with 2, maybe just 1. You know, this might be a little bit overbuilt. But what it does is each author in WordPress has that. And when you publish a post, that's the trigger. And I think we set it so you could decide how many comments each post gets immediately. And it could be anywhere from 0 to however many authors you have.
It's like 3 to 5 on a post, pretty much.
That sounds right. And it randomizes it a bit, and it just sends these out, like and then comes back with the ChatGPT response as a comment. So it's taking into account these persona traits. It's taking into account the main post as context. And if it's a comment on a comment, it takes the main post and the comment to give it additional context. So if we go to the next slide, you can kind of see the code. It's nothing fancy. Yeah, like, code's dumb, but you can see like at the bottom part, it's just text, right? It's just getting the personality, the style, and the sample as variables. And then it just kind of puts it in like a mail merge down there at the bottom. We're setting a little bit of context, saying respond in a natural blog comment style, keep it short. And this is one I had to add, is like, do not reference players or information after 2001. So we were avoiding historical anachronisms, right? So now we sound like we're in higher ed again. But it's just, you know, again, we're just sending text to the ChatGPT thing and asking it for the response to this. So, you know, and then the rest is just WordPress.
Yeah, and Taylor was joking with me. He was like, yeah, the real coolest part is, you know, you get these all cap commenters that come on your posts and are like pissed on, like there's a conspiracy theorist. There's a guy who thinks that old school football was the best football, and it goes on from there. And it's actually a lot of fun. I mean, they do somewhat get redundant, but that's because I didn't add more. Because if I added more, you could have, you know, an infinite amount, and you would have that kind of sense. And I do love the way it creates these personas, literally, that are fun, you know?
Yeah, and we could go crazy, like if we wanted to, and have like almost like D&D style. Like we could have random number generators that are like, how angry is this person on a scale of 1 to 10? We could have like life event that just happened, and have like divorce, bad gambling debt. You know what I mean? So like you could really go crazy if you wanted to. And those things could be generated spontaneously. You know, like we could have set up a whole thing where like after X amount of time, somebody else would respond to a comment in a persona. You know, I mean, like you could go nuts. Terrifying, because you could create a whole living organism completely composed of AI talking.
Yeah, which is, I mean, but part of the idea. I mean, the general idea of AI Madness was to play through a season of Madden 2001, and each game have a post before that was a preview post, a post after that gave a game summary, and then ultimately some fans out there, either in comments or on their own blogs, commenting on it. And it was kind of trying to create this mini universe, kind of playing with that idea of what you just mentioned. And so to that point, when I actually started doing this, I was like, I'm going to do the preview posts and they're going to be generated. I'm going to do the post game posts and they're going to be generated. But I would watch, because I play and recorded all the games that the Jets played. That was kind of my thing. So I was actually playing the game. But when I started playing them, I get so into them that I wanted to write the posts myself, the post game, because I was so attached to what happened and I wanted to kind of practice being a fake sports writer. So I would spend hours writing these posts, not because, AI may not have been able to do it faster or not, because it was never about time or efficiency for me. It was always about seeing what the possibilities were. And I found that I would do this, I would run it through AI to clean it up, and I'd have some pretty good post games. The other thing that AI did for me a little bit in the beginning, but then stopped because of resources or whatever, is creating GIFs based on the plays I would describe. And so GIFs were another thing I got really into, video clips and GIFs of the video I recorded. And I thought the GIFs were so fun. I would like to offload that work. Don't get me wrong. I'd love it if AI could create GIFs automatically or a video clip. But here's a good GIF I created of Curtis Martin scoring a touchdown, actually, but getting killed by John Lynch at the thing. And, these are part of what I really geek out about when I'm playing this game, and then also when I'm doing the post game. So it wasn't really all about, will AI make it easier? But it was kind of what parts do I want to have fun with and spend endless time on? And this, for example, was a lot of fun. And I had a game I played just the other day against the Dolphins, which I won 27-24. And I have a huge post coming about that. It was the best game I played all season. So anyway, I know that sounds ridiculous, and it is. But here's another example of partially how I'm doing this. So a week I was traveling and I had stuff with family. So literally it was the bye week of the Jets. So I could have not done anything, but I wanted to play 4 other games because there were some undefeated teams that I wanted to knock off, so that Jets were the only undefeated team. So I got in there and started playing some of these games, but then I realized, what, I don't have time, so I couldn't finish them. So what I did is, as an experiment, I took all the screenshots for these teams that were playing each other of basically their team stats and their player stats before each game. So for, let's just say the Falcons are playing the Rams. I took all the Falcons team stats and player stats, all the Rams team stats and player stats before the game. I simulated the game. So Madden just simulated the game. And then I took all the screenshots for the player and team stats after the game. And I basically told Madden, hallucinate the details. Just come up, make sure the score is right, but just come up with the game that you want and write an article about it. And I'm linking here at the bottom of this to a synopsis of the Falcons-Ram games that makes it feel like the game happened. And there's something very Matrix about this piece of it for me that I really like this experiment, where I felt like the game was really played because someone narrated it as such. And someone being, the AI. And I really enjoyed this piece. So this was an experiment along the way. I thought it was super fun. Now, some of the experiments and some of the issues aren't always technical. In fact, often the case, they're cultural. And this is a mea culpa on me. I was playing the Washington versus Jacksonville. And obviously, Washington changed their name to the Commanders. This game is 2000, 2001. I didn't recognize or respect that name change. And Trip Kirkpatrick got on Mastodon and politely said, hey, maybe it's better if you don't include that in your posts. And I think that's legit. And I think that's one of the things for me to kind of remind myself is this is not all about, the past is always like this great kind of return nostalgic thing to that. Some things are better left. And I appreciate Trip kind of calling me on that. And I should have known better. So that's purely on me. I was being a little blasé with that. But anyway, it's easy enough to get rid of that and just call it Washington. Although the game, the remnants of that reality are still very much baked in the game, which is an interesting kind of other piece that I'm not going to pretend to be academic and go into. So that's kind of, I mean, we did that faster than I thought. So that gives us a little time to talk at our kind of final what we'll call our future possibilities, because, you know, all of this was pretty much done off the side of our desk, Tom, right? We talked a couple of times, really. This wasn't like a plan. And I've been doing this, you know, I've been obsessed with it, but I've been doing it more to play the game necessarily than to fully understand AI, if I'm going to be completely honest. But there are some kind of future possibilities that are interesting. And one of the ones you brought up was the ACF WordPress integration.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I think that is like, we're doing this with the barest amount of effort, at least on the technology side, with the most common AI stuff, right? Yeah. So we're not tweaking stuff. We're not using different models for different things. Like, we could probably do some crazy different images, should we wish to, right? And like there's just a world of possibilities if we wanted to invest the time and energy. I think it's pretty amazing to look at like what we can do with like the barest amount of effort with the most basic of general tools, right? This is
agreed.
You know, this is commodity stuff from Walmart, and we're making pretty interesting meals with it. We're not going to Whole Foods or something. I don't know.
There you go. Love it.
We're not going to an Italian bakery, which we could.
That you'll suffer.
But a chunk of it too is just workflow. Like, where do you want to do the stuff, and how does it make it easy for you? Because in the same way we can create a custom gem or a custom GPT, we can create a WordPress thing that asks for the stuff that we know we want. Screenshot A, screenshot B, description C, and it just does the loop seamlessly and invisibly with the ChatGPT or whatever AI we hook in. So that could all happen just like straight through WordPress, just making the API calls and writing the data where we want it. And it could go to draft mode, it could go to live publishing. Like, I mean, that's the crazy thing is you can set like what was that game? Mousetrap. That's like a Rube Goldberg contraption.
Totally.
I mean, like this could be a crazy, weird mix of human and AI Rube Goldberg contraptions just going off for infinity if you wanted to.
And this is actually probably the next piece that's totally doable for those game previews. So the summer, like game previews for what's coming this week to look out for, that's all basically automated. So that could be grabbed up. One piece would be to grab the kind of preview image and then just put it in a post and make that the featured post. But literally that could happen like tomorrow, I think, if I figure out what you're talking about with the ACF WordPress. Like that would be a cool, like, okay, let's push it there. So that's fun. I like that. And I think it's totally doable. And again, with pretty minimum work. When I saw how fast that you wrote up the comment stuff and got that working, I was like, wait, you know, like I know you're a next level programmer now, but I was impressed.
Well, I mean, like I say, this is minimal investment. Like, you know, I mean, I've maybe spent an hour and a half on doing this because I'd already built at least like one chunk of it to do to get text from images, because like you showed earlier, like ChatGPT does a really good job with OCR in some really strange scenarios where typical things fail. So I'd already been working on that for like quote unquote real things. So to be able to tweak it and have it just pass in different variables was pretty straightforward. I think what's cool to me anyway is you start to look at other workflows where it's like, what role does the AI play? Maybe as an intermediary, like with the Python script, do we still try and keep it in AI at all? Or do we just use a real technology that's better at writing and keeping track of, you know, database tables essentially of stats? Or do we reference that database in a like as a variable that we write to and loop back through so that it's easier for the AI to understand what's going on because it's smaller chunks? So trying to that to me is an aspect of AI literacy, like because people are like, I wonder if I could build a spreadsheet in AI. And I'm like, we have spreadsheets. Don't do that. That's not a good idea.
Exactly.
Like, trying to figure out where AI is useful and interesting and fun, or where it might even help you discover the right technology to use to do the thing that you want to do is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because one of the things I was thinking about when we're doing this is like, so if we can create these automatic posts that come at the end, and then, like you said, you have this mini database that does some of the stuff that can get confusing, like divisional or standings or schedule or even league leaders and certain things. What might a system like that look like for more recent games? So I'm thinking of this in my mind, like, how interesting would it be to have like a Madden 2026, 2027? It might have this to some degree already. I should do my research. But in my mind, I'm thinking, you go, you play the game, and then immediately after the game, there's this whole media world that picks up, and they're podcasting about your game. They're writing about what you did and didn't do wrong. And there's this whole like world that part of the fun of any sports like world is the kind of media that comes out around it. And some of it can obviously be somewhat exploitative and a little over the top, but also some of it be thoughtful and enrich the game. But what would it be like for a game to give you that next step after every game you play instantaneously? I'm fascinated by that idea, right? Even the GIFs and the videos.
Well, you see, like, if you're reading about this stuff, excuse me, you can see like this kind of pattern that you're describing is definitely being used for whatever the most evil things you could think of, right? Like nation states manipulating people through AI sock puppet accounts. Like, been there, done that. It's been going on for several years, it appears, and it's going to only get better and better. Right? World's ending,
no, that's
dystopian
totally
future, true. Can we use it to fulfill your dreams of Maddeness? I think so too. And I'm kind of like, I might as well. I'm like, I'm not going to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic, but like, I'll play you out, right? I'll be with the orchestra. We might as well have some nice music as we go down. And that's kind of the position I have with this stuff. Is like, you can and it will be used for all of these horrible things. Can I have some fun with it and do some crazy stuff that maybe brings a moment of joy to Jim Groom? Cool. I want to do that.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. And, the final piece on that front is, by 2003, so in 2 years, as I'm playing with this, so I'm going to play every Madden season out for the next 25 years if I make it. But by 2003, there'll be an online Madden component. And my idea there was like, what would it be like for you to get 30 people or so, each of them adopt a team. Someone plays the commissioner and they do like the NFL or the AImadness.com. And each of them takes on their own kind of play the game or play each other, but then spin out their own kind of AI driven media world around those teams. Because growing up in New York, so much of that media world was about the Jets or about the Yankees or about the Mets or about the Rangers or Islanders. And so that's whole part of the experience. And it would be interesting to think like not only playing the game, but having fun kind of creating the content around it. And to your point earlier, that's what's already happening. And that's what's bringing down democracies and all that. And so I recognize I don't want to be flippant about it, but at the same time, it's an interesting way. I mean, when you think about how, fantasy sports and even gambling have kind of taken over and what that means. And for me, I don't want to, this is a deep interrogation of what it means. I don't think that, but it's a kind of like, for me, understanding what all of that kind of is based on and how easily that can be, I don't know, recreated in a way, because it is so formulaic, most of it. And some of it is deep and profound, but most of it is just kind of like a lot of the social media we have now, just channeling and churning crap. And I'm interested to see like what makes the stuff AI do any less crap or any more crap than what's going on already.
Well, the fantasy stuff, I guarantee you there will be like AI generated stuff for like your fantasy football, whatever you call that. Like, I don't play it, but I have friends who that's their job. Like, they are fantasy football, like draft analysis people or something. Like, that's their full-time job. Is saying stuff about that so you can better do your fantasy football stuff. The idea that like we'd have whatever you call those teams where you fight each other to see who wins, and you'd have a podcast that would like make fun of the people who are losing and do all that. Like,
yeah,
I mean, that would be gold. And I mean, it's like that. There's your startup idea right now. Somebody go make some money.
Exactly. And with that, Tom, we're at time, and I think we did pretty damn good time-wise. Yeah. And I want to thank you, for all your help with AI Madness, but also joining me here to talk about it. And thank you all in the chat and who have attended Reclaim Open to come and listen to this. This is probably the only AI session you'll have to suffer through. Big fan.
Likewise.
Yeah. Oh, wait, there's an outro I can play. Ready? Oh, we are good at Reclaim. Damn, we're good.
Nom nom nom.